get the word software opened up here. Okay. All right, here we go. We're live on Facebook. Let me get the recording to the cloud here started. All right. Yeah, thank you, AI. Thank you very much.
Yeah, AI.
Like I needed that reminder. All right, anyway. Okay, here we go. Now the program's up. All right, so we're going to be starting today's Haftarah reading. Shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, everyone. This is Brother Doug from the Awakened by Yahuwah Fellowship Assembly in Yahuwah Almighty, Yahushua Messiah. So today, as usual, we're going to be getting into our Haftarah study, but first we're going to get into the Torah portion part of it. So I will be reading that. And let's see here. So we're going to be doing a comparison. Leviticus 12 to 15. I'll be doing the Septuagint on the left and the Targum Onkelos on the right. Okay. And usually between these two versions, there's not much of a difference. Usually. I mean, sometimes there's little language differences maybe, but they should read almost exactly the same. All right, here we go. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yasharal. You shall say to them, whatsoever a woman shall have conceived and born a male child shall be unclean. 7 days shall be unclean according to the days of separation for her monthly courses. Okay. And on the 8th day she shall be she shall circumcise the flesh of his foreskin. Okay. And for 33 days she shall continue in her unclean blood. She shall touch nothing set apart and shall not enter the set apart place until the days of her purification be fulfilled. But if she should have borne a female child, she shall be unclean twice 7 days, meaning 14 days, according to the time of her monthly courses. And for 66 days shall she remain unclean in her unclean blood. And when the days of her purification shall have been fulfilled for a son or a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of a year old without blemish for a whole burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering to the door tabernacle of witness to the priest. And he shall present it before Yahuwah, and the priest shall make atonement for her, and shall purge her from the fountain of her blood. This is the law of her who bears a male or a female. But if she find not her hand, meaning she cannot, I like how the Septuagint's a little bit more direct. It says if she cannot afford a lamb, then shall she make 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a whole burnt offering and one for a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be purified. Okay. All right. On to the next chapter. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, if any man should have in the skin of his flesh a bright, clear spot, this is talking about leprosy in context here, okay, and there should be in the skin of his flesh a plague of leprosy. Okay, leprosy is a disease. It's not, it doesn't mean insufficient melanin, okay, so don't let anyone tell you that. Okay, it's an actual disease. Mm-hmm. He shall be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons, the priests. And I wonder, does it say plague in the Onkelos? I wonder. Stroke. A little different. Okay. And the priest shall view the spot in the skin of his flesh, and the hair in the spot be changed white, and the appearance of the spot be below the skin of the flesh. It is a plague of leprosy. Priest shall look upon it and pronounce him unclean. Okay. But if the spot be clear and the white in the skin of the flesh, yet the appearance of it be not deep below the skin, and its hair have not changed, white hair, but it is dark, then the priest shall separate the spot 7 days. Oh, thank you, stupid program. What are you doing? I hate it when it does that. Okay, all right, here we go. The priest shall separate the spot 7 days. Go down, verse 5 here. And the priest shall look on the spot the 7th day, and behold, the spot remains before him. The spot has not spread in the skin. Then the priest shall separate him the second time 7 days. Okay. And the priest shall look upon him the second time on the 7th day, and behold, the spot be dark, the spot not have spread in the skin. Then the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is a mark, and the man shall wash his garments and be clean. Okay. Verse 7 here. But if the bright spot should have changed and spread it in the skin, after the priest has seen him for the purpose of purifying him, then shall appear the second time to the priest. Okay. And the priest shall look upon him, and behold, the mark have spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. And if a man has a plague of leprosy, then he shall come to the priest. Okay. And the priest shall look, and behold, it is a white spot in the skin, and it has changed the hair to white, and some of the sound part of the quick flesh in the sore. It is a leprosy waxing old in the skin of flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall separate him, because he is unclean. And if the leprosy should have come out very evidently in the skin, and the leprosy should cover all of the skin of the patient from the head to the feet, wheresoever the priest shall look, and the priest shall look, and behold, the leprosy has covered all the skin of the flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him clean of the plague, because it has changed all to white, it is clean. But on whatsoever day the quick flesh shall appear on him, he shall be pronounced unclean. And the priest shall look upon the sound flesh, and the sound flesh shall prove him to be unclean, for it is unclean, it is a leprosy. But if the sound flesh be restored and changed white, then shall he come to the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, the plague is turned white, then the priest shall pronounce the patient clean, he is clean. Okay. And if the flesh should have become an ulcer in the skin and should be made whole, there should be in the place of the ulcer a white sore, or looking white and bright or fiery, it shall be seen by the priest. Notice how a lot of this has to do with going to a Levitical priest. Okay, so the Levitical priesthood in a way would need to be in place for us to fully keep this commandment here. Then the priest shall look, and behold, if the appearance be beneath the skin, and his hair has changed to white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean, because it is a leprosy, it has broken out in the ulcer. Okay, but if the priest look, and behold, there is no white hair on it, and it be not below the skin of the flesh, and it be dark colored, then the priest shall separate him 7 days. But if manifestly spread over the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the ulcer. But if the spot abides in its place and increases not, it is a description of an ulcer, and the priest shall make him clean. And if the flesh be in his skin fiery inflammation, and there should be in his skin the part which is healed of the inflammation, bright, clear, and white, suffused with red or very white, then the priest shall look upon him, and behold, the hair being white is changed to bright color, and its appearance is lower than the skin, it is leprosy. It has broken out in the inflammation. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. And if the priest should look and behold, there is not in the bright spot any white hair, it should not be lower than the skin, it should be dark. Then the priest shall separate him 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him on the 7th day. If the spot be much spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the ulcer. But if the bright spot, but if the bright spot remain stationary and be not spread in the skin, but should be dark, it is a scar of inflammation. The priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the mark of inflammation. But if a man or a woman have in them a plague of leprosy in the head or the beard, now this is important because I know there's some brothers and sisters think it's a sin to shave. Just check this out here. Then the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, the appearance of it be beneath the skin, and there be in the yellow, thin yellowish hair. Then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scurf. It is a leprosy of the head or of a leprosy of the beard. And if the priest should see the plague of the scurf, behold, the appearance of it be not beneath the skin, there's no yellowish hair in it, then the priest shall set apart him that has the plague of the scurf 7 days. And the priest shall look at the plague of the day, and behold, the scurf be not spread, and there be no yellowish hair on it. The appearance of the scurf is not set apart under the skin. Then the skin shall be shaven, but the scurf shall not be shaven. The priest shall set aside the person having the scurf second time for 7 days. The priest shall see the scurf on the 7th day, and behold, the scurf is not spread in the skin after a man's being shaved. The appearance of the scurf is not hollow beneath the skin. Then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his garments and be clean. But if the scurf be indeed spread in the skin after he has been purified, then the priest shall behold the scurf be spread in the skin. The priest shall not examine concerning the yellow hair, but for he is unclean. But if the scurf remain before in its place, and dark hair should arise in it, the scurf is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. And if a man or a woman should have in the skin of their flesh spots of bright whiteness, then the priest shall look, and behold, there are bright spots of a bright whiteness in the skin of their flesh. It is a tetter, it's burst forth in the skin of his flesh, he is clean. And if anyone's head should lose the hair, he is bald, he is clean. If his head should lose the hair in front, he is forehead bald, he is clean, and there should be in his baldness of his head or his baldness of the forehead a white or fiery plague. It is leprosy in the baldness of the head or the baldness of the forehead. The priest shall look upon and behold, if the appearance of the plague be white or inflamed in his baldness of the head or the baldness in the front, as an appearance of leprosy in the skin of his flesh. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Where did I last leave off? I hate it when it does this. Okay. See. Utensil skin. Where the heck did it go? Okay. What the heck? Did I go to a different? This stupid mouse of mine, man, it keeps dragging the wrong way. Okay. Pretty sure I look behind the whiteness of the skin. Shall it all thing is the appearance of the plague be white and inflamed, the appearance of leprosy in its skin. He is a leprous man, the priest shall surely pronounce him unclean, his plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, let his garments be ungirt, and let his head uncovered, let him have a covering put on his mouth, and he shall be called unclean. All the days in which the plague shall be upon him, being unclean, he shall be unclean. He shall dwell apart. His place of sojourn shall be outside the camp. And if a garment have in it the plague of leprosy, a garment of wool, a garment of flax, either in the warp or in the woof, or in the linen or in the woolen threads, or in a skin, or in any workmanship of the skin, and the plague be greenish or reddish in the skin or in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in any utensil of the skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall show it to the priest, and the priest shall look upon the plague, and the priest shall set apart the plague 7 days. The priest shall look upon the plague on the 7th day, and if the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in the skin, whatsoever things skins may be used in their workmanship, the plague is a confirmed leprosy, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, either the warp or the woof, in woolen garments, or in a flax, or in any utensil of skin in which there may be the plague, because it is a confirmed leprosy, it shall be burnt with fire. So this is talking about like any type of utensils that are made of skin, clothing, okay? And if the priest should see in the plague not be spread in the garments, either in the warp or in the woof, or in any utensil of skin, then the priest shall give directions, shall wash that on which there may have been the plague, and the priest shall set it aside a second time for 7 days. And the priest shall look upon it after the plague has been washed, and this even the plague has not changed its appearance. The plague does not spread, it is unclean, it shall be burnt with fire. It is fixed in the garment, in the warp, and in the woof. Okay. And the priest should look, and the spot be dark after it has been washed. He shall tear it off from the garment, either from the warp or from the woof or from the skin. And if it should still appear in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or any article of skin, it is a leprosy bursting forth, that wherein is the plague shall be burnt with fire. Okay. And the garment or the warp or the woof or any article of skin which shall be washed, and the plague depart from it, shall also be washed again, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy of a woolen or linen garment, either of the warp or the woof, or any leathern article, to pronounce it clean or unclean. So we just finished here, Leviticus 13. Okay, now we're going to a different law of the leper. And I believe we're going to get to the whole beard topic here when there's a leprosy within the person's face and the beard, what to do. Let me just, yep, go ahead, Sister Marissa.
So remember, I think it was last week or a few weeks ago, we were talking about how I was taught when I first came to Torah that this yellow hair meant blonde people. You know, how, because, you know, there's a lot of people that are listening right now that have been taught the same thing regarding verse 30, 32, and 36, when it says, and there be in it no yellow hair. And the fact that I was taught that this meant blonde people that were cursed. Can you elaborate and clarify that?
Yeah.
And also, the fact that when a woman is in her period, I believe it says in the Bible or in the Torah that wherever she sits is unclean. So if she sits in a chair or on a bed, is it true that no one else can sit in it? Because I had a brother that he would not go to a restaurant or to a movie theater because he said, I don't know if a woman that was in her impurity sat here. So he didn't really have a social life because he was so concerned about who sat there. So can you clarify that as well?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, you're not going to be able to avoid that happening when you talk about the outside world. And you're talking about non-believers with a woman in her purity. I think as far as that commandment's concerned, I believe we're only to be concerned. If I'm not mistaken, that command is actually talking about, a woman of that household. You're supposed to not touch what she touches. I don't think Yahuwah holds us responsible for what the world does, because women are not going to care. Women in the world are not going to care that they're in their impurity. They're going to sit wherever, whenever.
Oh
It's
no,
kind of hard. I
this is
wouldn't suggest going by life like that mindset. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to go out anywhere, restaurant anywhere, because a heathen woman might be, having her menstrual cycle and she might have sat on a seat that I might by mistake sit on. I mean, things are going to happen. I mean, there's, the purpose of the commandment was really directed to Yashar, to Israel, to like the man and his wife, to make sure where she sits, wherever she sits, you're not to touch. So we have brothers and sisters that will take precautions, that when their wife is when their wife is going through the time of impurity. I have a brother that's part of this assembly that they'll have there will be a specific chair that the wife sits on, that the husband will not touch, or anyone in that family will not touch. So I think that is a more realistic precaution to keep Yahuwah's Torah, rather than being afraid to go out and about and being afraid that someone might have been through their cycle. Because how are you going to know that that's out of your control?
that's kind of legalistic. That's kind of like going way too beyond. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's kind of like that's how Judaism was really created, was by the Pharisees and Sadducees. They would start
Yeah.
adding other parameters to guard themselves from breaking the actual Torah commandment, and that's what the Talmud is. So a lot of the Talmud, they would be adding commandments of men to that Torah command. So they thought it would help them create extra barriers not to break the Torah. And then eventually all these extra commandments eventually contradicted that Torah, the whatever Torah command they put those extra barriers to. So it's like it's a very gray area when you start saying, "Oh, I can't do any of this because someone of the world might be going through their period." You can't control that.
Yeah.
Like you can't control a non-believing woman who's not grafted in, sitting wherever she's going to sit. And you won't even know where she sat. So you're not going to go out at all. To me, that's a little crazy. I think that's a little exaggerated there at
Yeah,
the
it
minimum.
is.
So now, to address the yellowish hair, anyone could have that yellowish hair. Like, the melanin of your skin doesn't depend on what color your hair is, number one. Okay, so, and I hate to say this comes from, I'm going to try to say it as nicely as I can. That type of false doctrine comes from the black Hebrew racists, not the regular black Hebrew Israelites. I have some friends that are in this walk that are black Hebrew Israelites that are not the racist ones, but the racist ones usually preach that false doctrine. Usually they're the ones preaching that. The whole yellow hair spot, that means that it's a white blonde-haired person. No, it doesn't. The point of the matter is the whole context of that chapter we just read is leprosy. It's a plague. It's a disease. It has nothing to do with the melanin of your skin. So, like, a black person could have that being developed if they have leprosy. So it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Like, you're not cursed because you have a lack of melanin in your skin. That is due based to science and geography. Just to kind of put this to rest here. It's due to geography. It's due to where you live. If you live farther away from the equator, from where the sun is the majority of the time of the year, then you are going to be lighter skinned. If you are closer to the equator, you are going to be darker skinned. This is basic science. And I don't understand how people don't put two and two together that fall, they get deceived by that racist doctrine. And I don't understand how they don't put two and two together. Okay, melanin you're not born with more melanin than someone else from genetics. Melanin, the differences in melanin started, we could even say, after the flood. Okay, because what happened was people, especially after the Tower of Babel, you had certain nations being spread out abroad over the earth. So, of course, everyone's going to be darker skinned if they're in one area, if they're all in the Middle East. That's just common sense. Mm-hmm. But when you spread out geographically, people are going to lose melanin. It's just the way it is. Doesn't mean you're cursed. Just geography-wise, that's what happens. Scientifically, that's what happens. So I think a lot of times we look at scripture and we see the word white also, and we're thinking, well, white people. No. What they mean by white, they mean like white. That's the color of leprosy, number one. So leprosy would be like as white as a piece of paper, number one. So the idea that Moses' hand turned leprous, that means he's black, is an assumption. Okay? There's a lot of assumptions in that movement. There's a lot of assumptions, a lot of modern understandings trying to be inserted into the text, like looking at the word white and thinking about white people. That alone is you're inserting a preconceived bias that you've been raised with into the Bible instead of letting the Bible read for itself. So when it's talking about white leprosy, white as snow, okay, some translations will say, that literally means white as snow. Am I white as snow? No, I'm not white as snow. The chat here that's on my screen is white as snow, okay? So we got to start being honest with scripture here. And we really got to let scripture define itself, okay? We got to stop with what Christianity would call today eisegesis, which is a fancy word for inserting your own bias into the text instead of letting the text read for what it is. And we got to stop doing that because it's causing us to be deceived right and left. And it's crazy. Leprosy is a skin disease. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's just as much as a skin disease as what's the other one, Mom? Eczema. Yeah, it's very similar to eczema if I was to compare it to something else. So again, it's not you're gonna be turning into a white person. that is just such a weird, stupid, false doctrine. Man, but anyway, so all of the lighter melanin brothers and sisters out there, rest easy. You're not cursed, okay? You're not cursed, all right? Just because you have less melanin in your skin, okay? Anyway, moving on. Thanks for that. You're welcome, Sister Marissa. Yeah, I'm glad to clear that up. That's actually something I actually wanted to bring up anyway before it was brought up, but yeah. So we're going to go to Leviticus 14. So, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, this is the law of the leper, and whatsoever day he shall have been cleansed, he shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall come forth out of the camp. The priest shall look, and behold, the plague of leprosy is removed from the leper. And the priest shall give directions, and they shall take for him that is cleansed 2 clean live birds, and cedar wood, and spun scarlet, and hyssop. And the priest shall give direction, and they shall kill 1 bird over an earthen vessel over running water. And as for the living bird, he shall take it and the cedar wood and the spun scarlet and the hyssop, and shall dip them in the living bird into the blood of the bird that was slain over the water, over the running water. And he shall sprinkle 7 times upon him that was cleansed of his leprosy. He shall be clean. He shall let go the living bird in the field. And the man that has been cleansed shall wash his garments and shall shave off all his hair. All his hair. That includes this, okay? All right, so I just want to show that for brothers and sisters out there that believe it's a sin to shave because of a misunderstanding of Leviticus 19:27. Look at this here, okay? Yahuwah is commanding a man to shave all his hair, okay? And shall wash himself in water, shall be clean, and after that he shall go into the camp and shall remain out of his house 7 days.
Yeah, but Brother Doug, it says that only for leprosy, not any other day, right?
Well, there's other times in the Torah though that, as far as the general topic of shaving goes, there's other times Yahuwah says he actually tells men to shave their beards off. There's, let's see, the Nazirite vow. If you willfully want to take the Nazirite vow, to start that vow, you have to shave your whole beard off. And you have to shave your hair on your head. So the point I'm trying to make is that the idea that Leviticus 19:27 means you can never shave your beard is ridiculous, because then you would have scripture contradicting itself. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to infer that we have to shave our beards all the time, but the point I'm trying to make is that at the minimum, it's allowable for us to shave our hair. It's not a sin. So that was the point I was trying to make. But anyway, so verse 9, and it shall come to pass on the 7th day he shall shave off all of his hair, his head and his beard and his eyebrows, even all his hair shall he shave, and he shall wash his body in garments and wash his body with water and shall be clean. So yeah, to answer the question, yeah, it's this specific commandment we're reading right here is only the idea of shaving all of his hair off like that, even his eyebrows. Yeah, that's only pertaining to leprosy. So verse 10, and on the 8th day he shall take 2 lambs without spot of a year old, and the ewe lamb without spot of a year old, and 3 tenths of fine flour for sacrifice kneaded with oil, and 1 small cup of oil. And the priest that cleanses shall present the man under purification, and these offerings before Yahuwah, and at the door of the tabernacle of witness. And the priest shall take the lamb, offer him for a trespass offering, and the cup of oil, and set them apart for a special offering. Okay, whoops. I hate it when it does that. Why does it do that? It always goes too far down when I click. All right. And they shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the whole burnt offerings. Notice there's a specific place they have to kill the lambs. So that was part of the Levitical priesthood. You actually had to bring the animal to the tabernacle of witness to kill it even before sacrificing it. So, and the sin offerings in the set apart places, for it is a sin offering as the trespass offering. It belongs to the priest. It is most set apart. Okay, and the priest shall take of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the top of the right ear of the person, under the cleansing, on the thumb of his right hand, on the great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take of the cup of oil and shall pour it upon his own left hand, and shall dip with the finger of his right hand some of the oil that is in the left hand, and he shall sprinkle his finger 7 times before Yahuwah. And the remaining of the oil that is in his hand, the priest shall put on the tip of the right ear of him that is under cleansing, and the thumb of his right hand and the great toe of his right foot on the place of the blood of the trespass offering, and the remaining oil that is on the hand of the priest shall put on the head of the cleansed leper, and the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah. And the priest shall sacrifice the sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for the person under purification from his sin, and afterwards the priest shall slay the whole burnt offering. And the priest shall offer the whole burnt offering and sacrifice upon the altar before Yahuwah, and the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be cleansed. And if he should be poor and cannot afford so much, he shall take one lamb for the transgression for a separate offering, so as to make propitiation for him. Propitiation is just a fancy Greek word for atonement. That's all that means. And a tenth deal of fine flour mingled with oil for a sacrifice, and 1 cup of oil. Okay. And 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons as he can afford, and 1 shall be for a sin offering, the other for a whole burnt offering. Okay, and he shall bring them on the 8th day of his purification unto the priest, and door the tabernacle of ordinance before Yahuwah. And the priest shall take the lamb, the trespass offering, the cup of oil, place them for a set-apart offering before Yahuwah, and he shall slay the lamb of the trespass offering. The priest shall take of the blood of the trespass offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is under the purification, and on the thumb of his right hand, and the great toe of his right foot. The priest shall pour of the oil on his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with the finger of his right hand some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before Yahuwah. And the priest shall put the oil that is on his hand on the tip of the right ear of him that is under purification, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the trespass offering. And which is left of the oil which is on the hand of the priest, he shall put on the head of him that is purged. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah. And he shall offer 1 of the turtle doves, or of the young pigeons, as he can afford it. The one for a sin offering, the other for a whole burnt offering with the grain offering, and the priest shall make atonement before Yahuwah for him that is under purification. This is the law for him in whom is the plague of leprosy, who cannot afford the things for his purification. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, whensoever you shall enter into the land of the Canaanites, which I give you for a possession. Notice how it makes very clear which land he's leading them into. We cannot spiritualize this as wherever we live right now. Okay? Whensoever you shall enter into the land of the Canaanites, which I give you for a possession, and I shall put the plague of leprosy in the houses of the land of your possession, then the owner of the house shall come and report to the priest, saying, I have seen it. I've seen as it were a plague in the house. So this is talking about mildew. We're getting to the mildew part here. And the priest shall give orders to remove the furniture of the house before the priest comes in to see the plague, and none of the things in the house shall become unclean. Afterwards the priest shall go in to examine the house. And he shall look on the plague, and behold, the plague is in the walls of the house, greenish or reddish cavities, and the appearance of them beneath the surface of the walls. And the priest shall come out of the house to the door of the house, and the priest shall separate the house 7 days. And the priest shall return on the 7th day and view the house, and behold, the plague is spread in the walls of the house. Then the priest shall give orders, and they shall take away the stones in which the plague is, and shall cast them out of the city into an unclean place. And they shall scrape the house within, around about, shall pour out the dust scraped off outside the city into an unclean place. And they shall take other scraped stones and put them in the place of the former stones, and they shall take other plaster and plaster the house. And if the plague should return again and break out in the house after they have taken away the stones, and after the house is scraped, after it has been plastered, then the priest shall go in to see if the plague is spread in the house. It is a confirmed leprosy in the house, it is unclean. And they take down the house and its timbers and its stones, and they shall carry out all the mortar without the city into an unclean place. And he that goes into the house at any time during its separation shall be unclean till evening. And he that sleeps in the house shall wash his garments and be unclean till evening. And he that eats in the house shall wash his garments and be unclean till evening. Okay. And if the priest shall arrive and enter and see, and behold, the plague be not all spread in the house after the house has been plastered, then the priest shall declare the house clean, because the plague is healed. And he shall take to purify the house 2 clean living birds, and cedar wood, and spun scarlet, and hyssop. He shall slay 1 bird in an earthen vessel over the water. And he shall take the cedar wood, and spun scarlet, and hyssop, and the living bird, and shall dip it into the blood of the bird slain over running water. And with them he shall sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall purify the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, and the living bird, and with cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the spun scarlet. He shall let the living bird go out of the city into the fields, and shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law concerning the plague of leprosy and scurf, and of the leprosy of a garment, and of a house, and of a sore, and a clear spot, and of a shining one. Okay, interesting. And of declaring in what day it is unclean, and in what day it shall be purged. This is the law of leprosy. Okay, now we're at Leviticus chapter 15. All right. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, Speak to the children of Yasharal, and you shall say to them, Whatever man shall have an issue out of his body, his issue is unclean. And this law of his uncleanness, whoever has a gonorrhea out of his body. So this is not regular to all of our brothers out here. This is not regular semen emission, okay? That's why it says gonorrhea here, okay? It's actually a disease, okay? This is an uncleanness in him by reason of the issue by which his body is affected through the issue, all the days of the issue of his body. By which his body is affected through the issue, there is his uncleanness. Every bed on which he has the issue shall happen to lie is unclean. Every seat on which he has the issue may happen to sit shall be unclean. And the man who shall touch his bed shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water shall be unclean till evening. Whosoever sits on the seat on which he that has the issue may have sat shall wash his garments, bathe himself in water, shall be unclean till evening. Okay. And he that touches the skin of him that has the issue shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, shall be unclean till evening. And if he that has the issue should spit on one that is clean, shall wash his garments, bathe himself in water, and shall be unclean till evening. And every donkey's saddle on which the man has the issue shall have mounted shall be unclean till evening. Everyone that touches whatsoever shall have been under him shall be unclean until evening. He that takes them up shall wash his garments and bathe himself in water, and shall be unclean till evening. Whomsoever he that has the issue shall touch, if he has not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his hands and garments, wash his garments and bathe his body in water, and he shall be unclean till evening. And the earthen vessel which he that has the issue shall happen to touch shall be broken, and a wooden vessel shall be washed in water and shall be clean. That's kind of interesting. The Kalos omits the word clean there. That's interesting. We're at verse 12 here. Yeah. So shall be clean is omitted in the unkalos of verse 12 there. That's interesting. And if he that has the issue should be cleansed of his issue, then shall he number to himself 7 days for his purification, and he shall wash his garments and bathe his body in water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. He shall bring them before Yahuwah to the doors of the tabernacle of witness, and shall give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering, the other for a whole burnt offering, and the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah for his issue. And the man whose seed of copulation shall happen to go forth from him shall then wash his whole body, shall be unclean till evening. Okay, so now it's talking about just regular seed of copulation in verse 16. Now it's switched to whenever a man has seed come out from him. So let's see here. Okay, verse 16. Verse 17, and every garment, every skin on which there shall be the seed of copulation shall be both washed with water and be unclean till evening. And a woman, if a man shall lie with her with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and shall be unclean till evening. And the woman whosoever shall have an issue of blood, when her issue shall be in her body, shall be 7 days in her separation. Everyone that touches her shall be unclean till evening. And everything whereon she shall lie in her separation shall be unclean. Whatever she shall sit upon shall be unclean. Whosoever shall touch her bed shall wash his garments and bathe his body in water, and shall be unclean till evening. And everyone that touches any vessel on which she shall sit shall wash his garments, bathe himself in water, and shall be unclean till evening. Now, so far, I have not seen a commandment either here that says you can't touch something that she's touched. You're just ceremoniously unclean until evening. I mean,
is this just for the woman that lives in the home, or?
It says, let's see here. It says here, let me go back up here. Let's see here. It's everyone she shall. The woman whosoever shall have an issue of blood, when her issue shall be in her body, shall be 7 days in her separation. Everyone who touches her shall be unclean till evening. Even though it doesn't literally say it, Yahuwah is giving these commandments to who? He's giving these commandments to his people here, right? So, like, even the sojourner among them is being grafted in, being part of Israel. So you don't have pagans being given this, right? So that's what I mean by we need to be just concerned with those of his household, because like I said before, you could go out, sit somewhere, and you wouldn't even know it. But if you're in your house, in your home with your wife, or even your daughter or whoever that has this issue, obviously we can only be concerned with what we have control over. We don't have control over what the heathen are going to do. We have control over what people of Yahuwah's household does, if that makes any sense. So this whole list of commandments is being given to his people in Leviticus.
Does this apply to men and women, or just to men?
Men and women, as far as what they touch shall become unclean. When the man has that gonorrhea thing going on, that's the man version where you can't touch anything he's touched and all that, which I have yet to see an actual commandment that says do not touch anything they've touched. Like it would be a sin to sit somewhere where they've sit. I have yet to see that. It just keeps saying you're unclean till evening, which unclean doesn't literally mean sin. Unclean means you are ritually not clean. And so like there's a difference between when he, like with the pig, the dead body of a pig, we're commanded not to touch that. Like there's a that says literally do not touch their carcass. I have yet to see somewhere in this chapter yet. I mean, we're not done with it yet, but I have yet to see where it says do not sit where she sat. That's what I'm saying. Like there's no commandment yet that I'm seeing that says you can't do that.
Right, but my question is, does that apply to both men and women? Like, if a woman has her period, can another woman is not supposed to sit where she sat, or does this apply just to men?
Oh, I would say both. I would say both.
Impurity.
Because the reason I say both, it says anyone that shall touch her bed. Because it says in verse 21 here, whosoever shall touch her bed doesn't really give you a specific whether it's man or woman. It just says whosoever shall touch her bed shall wash. Okay, I see. Okay, wash his garments and bathe his body in water shall be unclean till evening. Everyone that touches any vessel on which she shall sit. Okay, so right here, though, in the next verse, it says everyone that touches any vessel on which she shall sit shall wash. Yeah, I think what's getting people confused is the wording of his garments. So they think it's only due to men, but it would make sense that it's a commandment for both, because that wouldn't make sense for you who would have a standard for men, but not for women, that they wouldn't have to bathe themselves in water at evening if they touch something that a woman going through her period has touched. I don't know, that would seem like an inconsistency if it's only for men. I don't know, that's just my opinion. And whether it be while she is on her bed or on a seat which she may happen to sit on, when he touches her, he shall be unclean till evening. And if anyone shall lie with her, and her uncleanness be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days. And every bed on which he shall have lain shall be unclean. That he shall have lain shall be unclean. Okay. And if a woman have an issue of blood many days, not in the time of her separation, the blood should also flow after her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean. And every bed on which she shall lie, all the days of her flux shall be to her as the bed of her separation. Every seat whereon she shall sit shall be unclean according to the uncleanness of her separation. Everyone that touches it shall be unclean. And he shall wash his garments, bathe his body in water, and shall be unclean till evening. If she shall be cleansed from her flux, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and afterwards shall be esteemed clean. So again, I'm not seeing any commandment that says you can't touch the object the person's sitting on. I don't see you as saying don't do it. He's just saying if it happens, this is what you do.
Right, but Doug, it says he there. It says many times it says he shall be unclean. Is that applying to both male and female? Because it says he, which means male.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that makes sense that it's always talking about he do this. It maybe it's because this commandment was pretty much the context of this commandment is between a man and his wife and all that. And maybe that's why it's always saying if he touches it. But I don't know. I would want a little bit more proof other than the language being used that it's only for men that they need to bathe in water if they touch something that a woman that's on her period has touched. I'm not gonna assume yet that it's only for men, that commandment to bathe in water and be unclean till evening. So I don't want to make assumptions just based off of the language of that it always says he, because it could just be that Yahuwah's that this commandment originally was directed towards the household, each household of Israel, and then that the fact that you have a husband and a wife, and most likely the husband would be touching, the husband would be the one that would worry about and stuff like that. Go ahead, brother Joshua. I see
going through that chapter and like looking at the ABP, a lot of the times that word him or he, like for instance in verse 27 where it says must bathe his body with water, that word he is not in there a lot of the times. So it seems to be a translation thing where the he is added a lot, at least in that chapter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point, brother Joshua. That's a great point. In our English Bibles, sometimes he and she is just added in there because they feel like the sentence is like a run-on sentence, or in the way sentences and language works in the English language, you need to have certain types of adjectives or whatever. I forget how I was taught in school about that. So the way the English language works is a lot different from the Hebrew and the Greek. So sometimes they add in masculine pronouns and feminine pronouns where it's not there in the text. So I think that's why that actually adds to the point I was making. Well, we shouldn't assume that it's only for men. I want to see something a little bit more concrete if it's just for men that they got to worry about being ceremoniously unclean. But so far, to the bigger point, I'm not seeing any commandment that says you can't sit on something that that someone who has a flow has sat on. I'm only seeing that he keeps saying you have to wash yourself at evening. You have to wash yourself and be unclean till evening. Like that's the recurrent theme I'm seeing here. I'm not seeing any commandment like Leviticus 11, which clearly says do not touch that dead carcass of a pig. Like usually if Yahuwah doesn't want us to do something, he's going to say it. So from what I'm seeing, this is all about ritual uncleanness here. This is all about you're seriously unclean and you have to bathe in water, and that's the actual commandment. So I just want to make sure I'm not adding to the Torah here. I'm not, because I know there's certain assumptions. We're not supposed to be sitting on the same seat as she sit on, or laying on the same bed she's laid on, but I haven't seen that commandment yet in this chapter yet. So I just want to kind of play it safe here, assume that this is that it wouldn't be a sin as far as I can see here. So like, let's say a brother has a wife that going through her flow, she sits on a chair, and he sits on the same chair she sat on. This chapter is only commanding that you bathe with water and that you're ceremoniously unclean till evening. That's all I'm seeing anyway. I could be wrong, but anyway, continuing on, verse 30, and the priest shall offer one for a sin offering and other for a whole burnt offering, and the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahuwah for her unclean flocks. You shall cause the children of Yashrael to beware of their uncleanness, so that they die for their uncleanness in polluting my tabernacle, which that is among them. This is the law of the man who has an issue, and if one discharged seed of copulation, so that he should be polluted by it. And for her that has an issue of blood in her separation, as to the person who has an issue of seed in his issue, for a male and for a female, and for the man who shall have lain with her, that is set apart. Okay, so that is the end of our Leviticus portion for today. We had some interesting stuff. So very interesting stuff. So I definitely want to look more into those laws about the uncleanness to find an answer out for myself, whether it would be a sin or not to sit on, to sit on something that someone who has a flow has sat on. So far, my conviction about reading that whole chapter through, not seeing one commandment that says not to do it. So at this point, I see that as just a ritual uncleanness. If you happen to, you have nowhere to sit and you sit on a piece of furniture that a woman who has a flow sat on, you would have to bathe at evening and you would be unclean till sunset to evening. So that's all I saw from that chapter. As far as commandments go, what we're supposed to be doing if that so happens. Anyway, so we're going to be back shortly. We're going to take a brief break and we're going to be starting the next portion, which is 2 Kings chapters 4, 5, and 7. So please stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly. Shalom.